So I want to just suggest you do your best to let your thinking mind go. That is, let it do what it does, but don't engage it. A good way to do that, of course, is to focus your attention on something more direct, like your breath. And most of you already know that. So I'm going to, while we're entering and being in this more meditative state, like this fire, to help remind us all of the fire within, the fire within that's so needed to cleanse ourselves and purify ourselves of the psychic pollution that we may have allowed to come into our energy field, into our body, into our mind, into our heart. And so we call on that inner fire and we'll do some more work with this in a little while, but just right now, just think of as though from your soul, from the deepest place within your nature, there's an elemental fire that cleanses the cells of all of the systems of your body, that cleanses the psychic energy of your mind, that is your thought stream and your emotional self. And it's helpful also to think of and open our sensitivity, our awareness to the fire of the sun, the fire of what is a living being, Native people call grandfather sun. The source of the energy that we experience on this planet of all forms, including the energy within our cells, within our bodies. And we open to the presence of our ancestors and the spirit ancestors of all the lineages, the great master teachers that have come to Earth, been on Earth, that have passed along the teachings that are helpful to us at this time to move through and navigate the very complicated and very challenging world that we're living in right now. And it's in our DNA, and it's deep, deep within our psyche that the ancestral knowledge is accessible. So allow yourself to open inwardly and also to the great source of light and fire of the grandfather sun, which even though the earth right now is turned in such a way that we don't see that, it isn't any less present, as is the light of the stars, which we now are more able to see. So I want to welcome all of you again, and to those of you that are here again, and those of you that are here for the first time. This webinar series started I started it calling it Staying Sane while making the world better, because I was hearing so often people saying, God, this stuff is driving me crazy. And so what's the alternative to crazy is sanity. Um, but it's really not just about not being crazy. Sanity really means healthy, health. And in a holistic sense, in a spiritual sense, health is really when the body, the physical body, and our minds are attuned to and receptive to, and even a channel for the spirit, our soul, our higher nature, our essential self, whatever within your own belief system, within your own way of thinking about it, whatever words make sense to you. When your body is in tune with its true nature, it has the healing, the flow of healing energy coming through. I'm sort of in charge of the technical side of this tonight, so I periodically see somebody in the waiting room and I admit them. So if you see me get direction of me getting distracted, that's what's happening. So it's also about making the world a better place. And one of the things that we've talked about, that I've presented, is a formula of consciousness work that I first heard articulated by my longtime friend and teacher, Ralph Metzner, who passed over a little over a year ago. And he presented it this way, and I'm going to just share this on the screen for a second. Here you go. So the formula is very simple, and it makes sense in a common sense kind of way, but it's worth thinking about because it really helps with whatever it is we're trying to do. And that is, we have an intention. As much as possible, we make our intentions conscious, and our intentions is what then moves us to pay attention in a particular way in order to make that intention a reality. And when we focus our attention, that pretty much determines what we'll experience. Well, first of all, it determines what we become aware of. And it also helps us, when we focus attention, move in the direction of that our attention wants us to move. So that way we carry out the intention. So intention moves us to pay attention in a certain way, and then that attention is what determines what we experience. So the intentions, two primary intentions that this webinar has asked us to focus on, is one, the intention to bring ourselves to a healthier, truer place, and by recognizing, well, what is it that I need to let go of? What's my intention of patterns or habits or ways of being that I'm seeking to let go of? That would be one side of our intention about ourselves. And the other side of our intention about ourselves is, what is it that I want to embody? What is it that I want to bring into my life? What is it that I want to be a little more of, perhaps? Do I want to cultivate more strength, more empathy, more of the creative side of myself? And so that focus on the intention is about ourselves. Then the other intention is really about the world, trying to clarify for ourselves, and we've worked with ways to get guidance on both of these things. What is it about this world that in my life I feel called to focus on to help make better? Is it something about my and it could be anything. It could be about my family. It could be about my community. It could be about the world, the region that I live in. And what about that? Is it about racial justice issues? Is it about um, uh, issues about women, health, education, and of course, many people now are focused on the health of the planet, what we call the environment, which is really uh, the nest or the home that we live in. It's part of us. Um, so tonight, I I'm I know most of you, at least I think most of you, were probably very moved and had a lot of feelings about what's happened over the past week, what happened in Washington, D.C., and the fallout from that. And similarly, the, the threat and concern that more of that kind of thing is going to be happening. And so I really wanted to make tonight a focus on ourselves, the focus on ourselves, and to look at and be as open as we can about our own reactivity and what we can do with that. And part of what we can do with that always is coming together with like-minded people who, as a new person, people who are essentially interested in cultivating a more compassionate and a more harmonious world, a more just world, and are either in shock or um, depressed or in fear or enraged by what's going on. All of those kinds of emotions are, I feel, quite human, quite natural, not unhealthy in and of themselves, but it can be unhealthy to get stuck in them and not allow for whatever it may be that can help us move beyond those feelings into something that can allow us to take more creative action. But again, before we can take that kind of creative action, before we can take wise creative action, we need to be able to come to terms within ourselves with the who am I, the attunement to the true nature of our being, which is from all of the great wisdom teachings and spiritual teachings that are been passed down in all the different cultures and religions, essentially one of love and compassion, and from which we learn to communicate with empathy and with strength as well. So another something that I've shared that I want to bring to those of you who are new and also to remind the ones who haven't is the fact that, let me get rid of that one. Here we go. That we are not only creatures of the head. We are not, although in our culture, you might say in our whole civilization, in Western civilization, we have evolved to where there's a primary focus of the thinking mind being the dominant place that we live in. Some people have said that most of Western civilization, people live from the neck up. I actually find that people often live from not even outside their head, disembodied. So this is a reminder, a diagram that one could say is in line with yogic teachings from yoga, but also from cultures that didn't necessarily use yoga itself. Meditative practices have told us that equal to the head area, which is actually more than the thinking mind. It involves the consciousness of knowing, even knowing things directly, intuitively. There's the heart. And the heart chamber is the place of feeling. It's the place of emotions. It's the place of where our personal relationships and our personal involvements are felt. And besides that, there's an area of intelligence, of consciousness, of equal importance. All of these are considered equally important. The fact that this area is higher in space is not an indication from this point of view of it being higher in importance or consciousness. So this area is in tune with, among other things, the very deep, deep knowledge of the body itself. The gut intelligence, the visceral intelligence, the things that we know from deep down. From deep down, there's a kind of knowing that exists in each of these areas. And the reason I emphasize it tonight is because the experiences that we've all had this week, I don't know if any of you didn't watch some of, at least of the rioting and the violence and the just even those who weren't committing violence, the signs, the messages that were being shouted out, essentially very hateful and with using symbols that have been used for generations to demean and vilify people that are different from Christian white culture. And of course, it's really foolish to even think that that's Christianity, the people that are representing themselves that way. So when we see those images, when we listen to those voices, when we hear that, it's very hard as a sensitive person to not have a reaction here, as well as to have lots and lots of thoughts, perhaps, that we could get into and try to understand, to try to be oppositional to what's going on. But unless we really deal, I feel, down in the body and down in the heart, we're going to miss the mark of just how much we've been affected by the events of the past week and what's really been going on for a very long time. And as many people have pointed out, particularly for marginalized communities, for communities that have been oppressed for a very long time, this is not new stuff. It's perhaps new to be this close to those of us who live in more privileged ways, where this is our government, these are the people that represent us, and they're being threatened with violence and even death. So that hits home, and in a way that's valuable, because it helps us, when we process it, to shift into a much more empathic place about what's been happening in the United States of America and the world for a very, very long time. So one, it's important to be able to have awareness, to face the reactions that we've had. whatever they are, to be able to look at them. And by cultivating a mindfulness practice, you can open to these feelings without them necessarily overwhelming you and taking you over. In facing them, we're acknowledging them. And when we do, and sometimes that's a difficult step for people, we're acknowledging that we have feelings that actually mirror the feelings that were being expressed by those demonstrators or rioters, really. Anger, hatred, righteousness, and the fear that we feel is really the fear that underlies most of that what's going on, although a lot of that is suppressed. So we're acknowledging something about ourselves, our own darkness, our own shadow. And again, that's a healthy thing because it's there. It's within everybody. Then we can ask ourselves, well, okay, I've got these feelings. If we're acknowledging them, we're aware of them, and we're acknowledging them. What do I know about the consequences of holding on to feelings of that nature? And I think most people who've reflected on it, most people who have spent some time looking at it, recognize that there's a kind of toxicity to it. It hurts us, it damages us to hold on to it. The initial feeling is a natural thing, it's a human thing, and yet as an energy, it can pass through us and out, but it doesn't always work that way. We often get stuck with that emotional and bodily tension and stiffness and locked in. And so then we get to make a choice. If we realize that this is hurting us, this is causing us to be depressed or to be chronically angry and anxious and agitated, then the choice is to learn and practice whatever it is that can be done to shift that emotional energy. And I know some people do that very consciously by immersing themselves for a time in nature. I'm a big proponent of that. I do that myself. I'm fortunate and in a sense privileged to live right on the borderline of the Bear Mountain Park and Harriman Park. So I can just go in there and take a bath and cleanse myself of, for me, the fury that I came to feel towards these people. Really, it was intense. And I know, depending on people's personality and life experience, it could be more fear. And I have some of that too. And then there could just be grief that it's come to this. It's come to this, that it's so out in the open. Stuff that has been closeted away. It's as if somebody opened the gates of hell and all these demons have just come out publicly where they've been hiding. And it's easy to get into blaming folks for that. And blaming maybe ourselves for not doing enough to make it different, make it be different. So a good nature bath, meditation, absolutely, because meditation, if nothing else, helps us to lower the volume of the chatter of the thinking mind. And when you lower the chatter of the thinking mind, you allow yourself to, in a sense, do what I was talking about before, that you can be aware of the honest feelings that you're having, and just let them be and let them move, whatever you need to do with that. And then there are practices of meditation where you learn to transmute or transform the energy of these feelings. And I'll in a minute just do a little bit of a practice with something like that. And yoga, really, really conscious yoga. Maybe all yoga is supposed to be conscious, but I know that in our world today, yoga has become so widespread that a lot of it is about just relaxing a little bit, feeling like taking a break and doing a relaxing stretching exercise. But true yoga, as it's practiced by good teachers, is a way of coming back to center and aligning your body and your consciousness with your higher nature, with your soul, with spirit, with the energy of the cosmos. So not what I'd like to do now, because of, again, what's happened, and I feel like so much is in people's hearts, so much is going on, that I want to give you time to essentially talk with each other in small groups. But before we do, I'll lead you in a little meditative practice just to help with what I've been talking about, with going inside, opening to the different areas of your nature, and getting in touch with what's there without trying to hide from any of it, and opening to a process that can help with transforming or shifting that consciousness of your head, your heart, and your gut. Okay, so take a good deep breath in and out. And it's helpful to close your eyes. And allow your attention to stay focused with your breathing. And it's likely that you've done this before. If not, it's okay. I want to encourage you to just imagine you're doing it for the very first time, even if you've done it 10,000 times. So that you're choosing to give your fullest attention, which doesn't mean tensing up. It just means allowing the gaze of your mind's eye to be with your breathing. And that means it could be that you're feeling the air coming in through your nose or your mouth, in and out, and that you're actually feeling that coolness or tingle or sensation. And that's all you need to be doing when you're doing that. The thinking mind will continue to be doing its thing, and your heart will continue to be beating. Your digestive system will continue to be working. And all you need to pay attention to right now is the breath. And if you allow your attention of breathing to be with your chest, your upper body, you'll feel movement there. What's those movements? See if you can recognize what sensations you feel of movement. breathe full breaths, you may also feel your abdomen moving. Allow that to happen. Allow your abdomen to move and feel that move. So you're experiencing now the consequences of your attention being focused in your body, which is that you become aware of your body. You become more aware of your body than you were before, when I was just talking and you were listening to the words and thoughts. Now if you're doing this, you're more aware where your attention is focused, experiencing your body, which brings you more into the now, into the present moment, the here of where you are, in your body, where you are. And then we take another shift and we open to the presence of the higher self, if that's a word that is meaningful for you, or the presence of presence, the presence of the soul, the presence of the being that you actually are, beyond the one that you think you are. The one that is a source of peace, of clarity, beauty, love, strength. If we can even get a teeny little sense of that, or even just a good quality of the thought of that, a feeling of that presence. And I invite you right now to open as much as you can to whatever that is for you. With that, we can look at anything. We can face anything. Because there's no conditioning, there's no attachment. There's the radiance of true being. So now you can take a moment and just be aware of how it feels inside your head. That may be a strange expression to some of you. I'm not asking you to think about what you're thinking about. I'm asking you to feel your head as a body. So it's energy, actually. And it may feel tight in some areas, like around your forehead or your eyes or your temples. It may feel very open, whatever it feels. And to allow yourself to be aware of the quality of feeling in and around your head, with, at the same time, some sensitivity and awareness of this beingness that you are just also opening to. it's like having a dual awareness, dual, meaning one aspect of your awareness is with presence, and another is with whatever's going on inside the brain and head and all the aspects of your head and around your head. And bring your attention down now into the area of your upper torso where your heart is, your lungs and your heart, and breathe and be aware again of, well, what is going on down here right now? And because we're aiming to focus on processing the events of the week, I'll just call your attention to that. Maybe bring to mind an image that you saw on the TV or heard on the radio or saw in a picture in the social media or newspaper. And try to be as open as you can and acknowledge as deeply as you can what sort of emotional reactions have been going on inside your own heart right now. And I know there's a tendency always, I have it to try to think, what is it? You know, I really want to encourage you to just see if you can feel it. It may be very subtle at first. Or maybe you'll just get right into it. What is it? What's the body taken on as you've witnessed these events? And it's a process that you can continue and that you can practice and do more of on your own. And then bring your attention down into the belly. And this is where you could say things that we haven't digested very well go, and we can get a belly ache. When people say, looking at this, excuse me, when people say, looking at some of this stuff made me sick. It isn't just that you had thoughts about it, that it was wrong. Your body viscerally knew that something poisonous was going on, and it has this reaction to it. And right now, we're opening to a process to be aware of and to begin to even release some of that reactivity, some of the tension or tightness that you may feel in your gut, your low back. You know, I found myself having to do a lot of stretching, yoga, meditation of this kind and other kinds, with the intention to bring myself to center, to bring myself to that alignment with my true nature. Which I always find to be loving. Always. It's like the sun may be hidden behind a cloud, or right now it's on the other side of the planet, but it's always shining. It's always there. Always. So just bring your attention for a minute now back to the heart area, because I know that's kind of the hub of the emotional part of us, and that's where we have our emotional reactions, and also where the energy of the radiant sun within can shine. you can bring that through your body, in your world, to other people around you to start with, and then radiating out beyond that. And I'm gonna now create a little breakout space. Let's see, 17 people here. So, little mathematics. Okay. Here we go. And I'll give you a signal. I'll send a message a couple of minutes before we come back. People have asked me when I do these breakout rooms to give you a little bit of instruction. First of all, you can not speak at all if you're inclined that way. That's fine. Maybe just let people know. And secondly, see if you can focus on the question of what your reaction was. Try not to get into describing the events and talking about too much about, if at all, about what happened, but talk about what happened to you. And if at all, in this meditation practice, which we did, was very quick, you found anything that was helpful to you in the way of understanding it better, acknowledging it better, and or finding a way toward releasing that. Okay, see you soon. Okay, so I'd be interested in hearing if anybody wants to share what you got out of your small group or what you want to share to everybody now about this theme. We have a little bit of time, so try not to talk for too long. Just unmute yourself, and there is a hand raising thing, but I'm not, I don't think I can do that right now. So if anybody feels like speaking, just unmute yourself and start. If two people talk at the same time, we'll figure that out.
I'll just say very quickly that what I brought up in the small group was the strongest thing that happened to me watching it, which was realizing that if this had been 1968 and I had learned that if I'd known then that Nixon had sabotaged the peace talks in order to keep himself in power and had stolen the election, that might have been me out there. And I wouldn't have been clubbing people and being quite as murderous. I would have been as passionate.
Is there anything in the present, Joseph, that you could say was an emotional component to that realization?
It kind of stopped me short with my self-righteousness and my condemnation.
I see. Yeah.
And realizing that deluded as these people are, and they believe what they believe, and just it didn't give me any insight into how to communicate with them, and more of a sense of communicating with those of us who are not them.
Mm-hmm. Good, thank you. Mm-hmm. Anyone else, please? Feel free.
Well, I know I was absolutely furious for the first few days, and then I realized that I was feeling so deeply sad at the alienation that you could feel everywhere. You could just feel it, like in the atmosphere. So it shifted from, and I'm still angry at those people, at the rioters, but the thieves, whatever, horrible. But and I'm also just wanting to connect. It's so great to be on this with you all tonight and connect with other people. It's an antidote to both those feelings.
Yeah, there's something about our like-minded gatherings that is a medicine, like a balm. But especially if we're not just conspiring to rev up the negativity, which can happen.
Right.
So
Right.
I saw Wendy want to say something.
My feeling was disbelief, just sheer disbelief that could be happening here. As it turns out, I have a longtime, very dear friend who was one of those people. I don't know if she got inside the building, but she was one who bussed up from Florida for this adventure. And I'm going to write her an email, send her an email soon saying, how was that? To not be watching it, but to actually be living it, right in the heart of it. How did you feel about that? What was it like? And see what she says. Because I can't imagine it. So I'm really interested what that felt like. And if she and others felt that something was accomplished by that, by those actions, and how it played out.
I'd rather ask her why.
What?
I would rather ask her why, what compelled her.
Yeah, before we get into strategies of what to do, I just want to hear from people who want to just share briefly, what you've been feeling, what you
Alan,
remember.
Alan, Jackie, and Jossie.
Go ahead.
Jossie
Jackie?
first.
Okay.
Well, I've been feeling like this this pumped up adrenaline rush. Every time I think about it, it's horrible. Actually, it's a horrible feeling because it's based on fear and anger, and there's nothing about what curiosity about why they did this or what they felt or anything like that. But I have to say that this meditation really helped me a lot. It felt like I could breathe for a little bit, and just it was like a real breath of fresh air coming into me that I feel a little bit of relief, actually, having done the meditation.
Great. Well, thank you. And again, remember, all we really did, and we did it very quickly. I really want to encourage people to, on your own, meditate for longer periods of time. Get in touch with what you feel. It's very different than trying to understand the situation, which is fine, which is valuable. We need to do that. We need to study and learn and figure out or contemplate what's going on. But it's different to direct that attention inside. What are you feeling? And that way, then, that becomes the object of your work for that period of time, to help you, to help yourself. Give yourself a chance, like Jackie's saying, to release some of that turmoil that has been triggered. So anyone else want to just share for a minute?
Jump in,
Go ahead. One more, I think. Who was that?
Dorothy.
Dorothy, I'd like to,
Okay,
okay.
Dorothy.
When we got to the head, I had cement at the top of my head. I'm hard-headed. And I think when I reflect on what is your intention, my intention is very strong that we go forward under new leadership. And the opposition's intention is to keep this person in power. And the distance between the two parties is something that frightens me. And I've got to be hard-headed and I've got to be rational. And it's hard to be rational when you're working with irrational people.
Yes, it is. And it's hard to make what we may consider rational or wise decisions when we're caught in fear. And this stuff can easily be very scary. But if the old idea, the only thing to be afraid of is fear itself, or the only thing to fear is fear itself. Wrong. You don't want to be afraid of your fear. You want to be able to be aware of our fear, and that lessens the intensity of it right from the get-go. At least that's been my findings. And so I think that's all we can do as far as discussion right now. And if I'm open to feedback, if people want to have in the future more opportunity to discuss in the large group setting, I can change the format and we can do things a little differently. I want to invite those of you who are new to this to join the Facebook page or send me an email, and at least I'll get you on the list to be included. You might have learned about this through a message that got forwarded to you. So we meet every week. The alternate weeks, which would be next Monday, is just meditation. So we just do more of a deep dive into the meditation part for a half hour. And then this week, and then a week, 2 weeks from now, we do this, whatever that is that I'm doing. So yeah, it feels good to me to be with you. I hope it's helpful to you, and I look forward to seeing you again. One thing I will also share is that I meditate every day somewhere between 7 and 9. And I start somewhere between 7 and 8 usually, and I meditate for about an hour. So if you find, as many people do, that when you meditate, you have awareness that other people are meditating at the same time. They don't really literally have to be meditating at the exact same time, but it helps somehow in the way all of this, the mystery of the way all of this works. Just like when people get together, even if you're not physically in the same place, if you're attuned to that you're meditating together, I invite you to join me. And if you can't do it at that hour, Eastern time, which would be really very early on for those of you from California. My good friends Joseph and Johanna, who are from California. I don't know if anybody else is from out west. And just do it any old time. It'll work. So blessings to you. Namaste.
No.
We're in this together. We will get through. We will get through. We are now through.
Sure.
Blessings, my brothers and sisters.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ellen.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Alan.
God bless everybody. Deborah, it was nice meeting you.
Very
Thank you.
nice meeting you, Deborah.
Bye, girls.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you, darling.
Bye, everyone.